Okay, so that's me. It is, really, believe me, yes, yes. Yeah. Yeah. 45 years ago, and I was standing on the same position here, about, I think, 1 meter or more there, during the final of the Queen Elizabeth contest, and sweating like a horse, and starting a career after that as a violinist, which was very fine. And I was very well prepared, I had good teachers, and they taught me everything about music, I thought, about playing fine and playing beautiful melodies and playing nice sounds. But there was one thing they never talked about, and it was about speed. And I think that speed is probably the most important thing for all of you and all of us, also for me, in music and listening to music and being aware about that. Speed is something that decides a lot of things, and it took me many years to discover it, that that was an item, not a beautiful sound on a nice violin or on a cello or a piano, or virtuosity, because I like to play fast, you know, that period. I really like to go Paganini and playing fast and impress people. And once in a while I reached that goal, but that was not the utmost goal. So actually I had to look for some other things. And it took me about 15 years to discover that speed was also something where nobody ever talked about. They talked about tempo, but never about speed. And I discovered it by making some other recordings, and then I came with this recording. Later on, this is much slower. It's by Arvo Pärt, and it was used then, just for information, in some major movies like The Place Beyond the Pines and There Will Be Blood. They used this as a soundtrack thing. And when I asked the directors why did they choose this recording, they said, because it's the right speed. So I was getting more and more convinced that it's a very important thing in life. So when I was asked by Walter to come here, and I gave him a title, I think probably he misunderstood, because maybe he thought it was about this kind of speed, but I never used that. So maybe he does, but I don't think so. No. He says he's shaking the head now. And was younger, I liked speed, yes. I liked skiing. I was never like this guy. No, never, I promise, really. Was not that good, but I liked driving cars and things like that. But all over the years, it's like I said, 45 years ago, I slowed down a bit. And I like also these kinds of things, which are like Zen-like, you know, it's more control about this speed, more control about what is slow, and maybe more control when you're having a cup of tea, or maybe longing for, no, that's the wrong, it's about a massage, but that's not for me, so I go to the next one. It's about this. How does music comes in our brain and has an effect on our feelings and our emotions, and how does speed has an influence on these emotions. So what we get on the score is a composer writing about the tempo, you see. They decide, listen, it's in 4/4 or it's in 3/4, and then as a good musician to try to reach that goal, and then they give you another information. They say, it's adagio, it's molto vivo, it's something in Italian, whatever it means, and then you say, okay, and what does it mean really? Because you have no clue about the speed. So the speed is something that has to do. Good speed is like a good heart rate. And a good heart rate is something which is continuously, but not always the same. We know that. And speed, you can find the right speed by using like a metronome, but that's maybe the worst thing you can do, because that's deciding a very automatic thing which has nothing to do with the right tempo and the right speed. Music with text is something that's more easy to listen to. Why is it? Because most people, they listen to the text more than to the music, more than to the melody. Because the text is something you can make your own interpretation about what you hear and how it comes back in your own feelings, your own memories, and how you translate it to your own feelings. So music with text, like a song or a ballad, whatever, is more accessible than some purely instrumental music. And when you go to the opera, it's also something there with the text. I know most people don't understand the text because the singers can't pronounce it well, so you never can go to the opera and say, that's what he's singing or she's singing. You can't understand a word mostly. But an opera singer, they have a cue of making long notes and high notes and as long as possible. So they don't care so much about the speed of the music itself. They care about their own feelings about what they bring as a singer. And opera has also an advantage. You don't have to listen, you can look. You can see what is happening in the music, and it gives some decorum, and it makes you feel fine, and it can be quite sometimes impressive to have a lady like that. So let's jump this image and going to something more serious, which was I had. I had this kind of wooden box there with some gut strings on, and my goal and what I had to achieve was to get into your feeling with that. It's quite complicated to do that. How can I make you participate in a mutual sensorial experience, an emotional experience? How can we do that? I don't have to impress you with how fast I can play and how good my fingers are moving or how then my hair was. It didn't matter. It has to be, how can I bring my emotions to you? So where's the magic? The magic word in this is interpretation. Interpretation is something that's very, very important because it is the interpretation of what I see in the score and how I myself am going to bring it to you and how you are going to make your interpretation of my interpretation, because it's something, it's an exchange. It's not just leaning back and enjoy. It doesn't work like that. You can't lean back in a concert. You have to be active. You have to be there. You have to listen. You have to participate. So one of the fantastic examples I can give you why it changed is that old music, so let's talk about Bach. You know, Bach was played before the 60s. Bach was slow, very slow, and I dare to say very boring. It was something you could not listen to too long because you fell asleep. And big orchestras playing Bach with conductors going very wide movements and going very slow. And it didn't work at the end. So people, young people especially, they didn't like Bach, not at all. And then there was a big change. Suddenly you had some guys coming, and they looked to paintings, and then you see here 2 paintings where people hold a violin in the 17th century, 16th, 17th century, and you see me holding a violin in the 20th century. It's quite a difference. So there was a different attitude, there was a different technique coming. And they found also, they had a lot of literature which came across them, and you could read about how music was in the 17th century. Quite interesting. And then to say it changed everything. And it changed especially the speed. The speed was changed, for example, by this gentleman, where the one picture is Nicolas Harnoncourt. One picture is looking very friendly, and the other one probably during a rehearsal, where he has some confrontation with musicians who do not exactly understand what he means, but it's coming. So he changed the speed, and some pieces which were played before that were double as fast as before. And suddenly Bach became joyful, and you could smile, you could even dance, you could move, you could tick your feet, and you could move your hands during listening to Bach, which was new. Handel, you could discover Handel and Purcell and all these Baroque composers which were so boring before, suddenly they became alive. And we became very aroused, you know. So arousal, it's something it puts you up in the air and you go very high there and you feel floating almost. And arousal is, well, it can be also a dangerous thing because in 2004 there's an English automobile club which said that they deemed Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries as being the most dangerous music while driving, because it's music that takes you forward and your right foot mostly goes down when you listen to that music. It's a very strange happening there. And you should try it, but do it when it's an empty road, which is in Belgium not possible anymore. So, but it's really, music can arouse you so much that you go forward, you want to achieve something. So in neurosciences, there have been big research, and I'm not going to talk about that because I'm not a specialist, but I read about it, and it's really true that your frontal cortex, it changes, it stops to work like it, and it's more your sensorial cortex that's getting involved in the whole thing. So you become in a certain state of timelessness, you know, you get away from when you listen to music, and you can lose time. It's a very strange phenomenon that speed in music can change time. Something to think about. So it's like a bit Zen, but it's different. So if the tempo is not right, your feelings will not switch on. And if the tempo is right, if the speed is right, your feelings will switch on. And why is that? Because actually, when we listen to it, our expectations. We expect something to happen in music. And I ask you, really try next time you listen to a song or to another piece of music, try to feel that you're expecting something. When the melody is played, at a certain moment, you will feel when the melody is not coming back, some emptiness. So that's why classical composers, mostly they bring this variety of the melody back and back again. And sometimes, mostly what you do when you're listening, you expect something to come. A great performer in jazz, for example, it was Miles Davis, when he was playing a note, and he was holding the note, and he stopped. And he started again. And in that period, you were feeling something, so there you get fulfilled. And that's what music is about. That's how you have to listen to music and how you can experience this kind of control about the speed in music. And that's exactly what I was trying to talk about, because music is what feelings they sound like. You know, that's what it is about. And to conclude my little speech, I would like you to listen to a lady who is going to bring you some music, which is my wife, and France Springuel. She's a Tchaikowsky Prize winner in Moscow for cello, and she will bring you 2 pieces from who else? Bach. So from Johann Sebastian Bach, Suite No. 1 cello, and a prelude and a sarabande by France Springuel, and I thank you very much. Thank you.